Hi everyone, it's been a while. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kirtina. I am a recent nursing grad from UofT's Accelerated Nursing Program. So before I started nursing school, I was working part-time as a clerk at a hospital, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to continue working throughout nursing school or if I should quit my job, because on one hand I would be gaining a lot of hospital experience, making great connections, networking with people, and also be making extra money for commuting expenses and school supplies. But on the other hand, I knew that this was going to be an intense program because it is a 4-year program compressed into 2, and I knew time management was crucial, so I wasn't really sure which way to go about it. So just a quick background before I go into the tips and the input that I want to give you. I worked both years of nursing school as a clerk, as a part-time clerk on weekends only, and I worked about 2 shifts a week every single week for the most part. And towards the second year, I also picked up working as a work study student through UofT. I worked as a research assistant in that work study at a hospital, and I loved it. And I'll be telling you how to apply and all of that as well. So tip number 1 is that you need an accommodating and flexible job. Your employer needs to know beforehand that you are in nursing school full time and it is a compressed program. So you're going to need days off, you're going to need to move shifts around and so on. So you need to let them know beforehand, and you need to ask them to be accommodating and understanding. And of course, not every job will be that way. That's why it's important for you to communicate your needs to them during the interview process, so that it's open and they're aware of it. So that way you won't be stressed out when you need to take time off and you need to ask them about, whatever, you need to move your shifts around and that you need them to be flexible. And the reason why I'm saying this is because UofT releases their schedule about a lot of stuff super late. So it's kind of mostly going to be last minute. Like your lab days are going to be randomly assigned. Like they'll give you a week ahead. Like they'll tell you, oh, during this week in October you'll have a lab, but you don't know which day. So if you do have a shift that falls that day, it'll be stressful for you. So you just need to let them know beforehand. Another reason you need them to be flexible and accommodating is because your placement days are not the same days every single rotation. They change rotation to rotation. So for my first rotation in geriatrics, I had Thursday, Friday as my placement days, so I worked Saturday, Sunday shift every single week. And during my second rotation in mental health, I had Saturday, Sunday rotation. So now that means I had to make sure I got shifts on Thursday, Friday, and I communicated about that beforehand. It does not matter what job you're working, UofT expects you to prioritize their lab days and any activities they have over any other commitment you have going on. Even if it's work, it doesn't matter. Like, you need to prioritize the schooling because this will be your first priority, and UofT expects that from you. A tip that I can give you for this specific factor is you can work as a clinical extern. It's super flexible. It's meant for nursing students to have hospital experience. So you just do a different clinical responsibilities, depends on the organization. You do things like vitals, blood sugar checks, moving the patient, ambulating them, taking them on walks, and cleaning them if needed. Like, you'll be doing different responsibility, but it's super flexible. The employer also knows that you're a student and this job is meant for nursing students, so that way you don't have to stress about, oh, I have to miss this day of work because I have an assignment, or because I need extra time for my exam. Like, you don't have to stress about it. I recommend applying to clinical externs. Clinical externship is a paid position, and the shifts are typically 12 hours, and I think you can apply as early as second semester of your first year. You can go to any hospital website that you want to work at and look for clinical externship positions under their career tabs. I chose not to work as a clinical extern because I already had a job before I started nursing school as a clerk at a hospital. And everything worked out for me. The pay worked out, the hours were similar, and it was still hospital experience. So I just stuck with that just because it's easier. Tip number 2. I know you're probably tired of hearing about this over and over and over, even on social media. You have to take care of your mental health. You have to take time for yourself and do something that you enjoy, because this program is so intense. You have clinicals two days a week, you have classes 2 to 3 days a week, and if you're working on top of that, your whole week will be packed, and you have random lab days, and the commute's going to be a lot, and there's going to be assignments some weeks, and whatever lab that you need to prepare for beforehand, and sometimes you even have tests, so you have to make sure to take that time to yourself. And obviously I'm always honest about these things with you. I am not trying to overwhelm you or anything, but you have to take your mental health seriously and take the time off and balance your schedule appropriately, especially if you're planning to work. Like, what I recommend is, I didn't listen to this advice in my first year, and it was absolutely brutal. I was so burnt out towards the end of first semester. I worked every single weekend. I had no time off or anything. I even worked extra shifts on reading week. What I recommend for you is, let's say on days that you do have like exams or tests coming up, I recommend taking the weekend before that off, or like taking a few days off just so you can give that test your all, give that assignment your all, so you're not stressing about it last minute. Another big reason why you should take your rest and mental health seriously, besides it affecting your academic performance, if you don't take that time for yourself, it also affects your social life. You won't have time to hang out with your friends if you're constantly working, or you have clinicals going on, or because you're catching up on an assignment or homework or labs or classwork. Like, let me give you an example. I would work a 3:30 to 11:30 shift on a Sunday, and knowing that I have a class at 9 a.m. on a Monday. One, because I didn't communicate my needs to my employer beforehand, and two, because it was already too late to switch out my shift at that point, or there was nobody to switch out my shift with. So I ended up working that shift, and I was so tired for that class next morning. That my commute is usually 2 hours. I was exhausted for that class. Like, I wasn't able to pay attention. My health was suffering, and just overall performance was not good. So yeah, don't do what I did. Listen to me when I tell you, take your health seriously. Take a more balanced approach. This is what I did in second year. I reduced the number of shifts that I've done, because I was doing 2 12-hour placements in my acute care. So I was like, I'm only going to work one shift or no shift at all throughout the whole duration of that placement. I think for like 2 to 3 months I barely worked any shifts, and that worked out so much better because I actually had the time to take care of my health, go to the gym, meditate, and whatever I needed to do, and hang out with people. Like, whatever I needed to do, I had time for it. So make sure you do take a balanced approach. So if you do want to work, you need to know what your stress management skills are and how you handle your time. Like, that is crucial if you want to work. Let's say you do want to work somewhere around 16 hours or 12-hour shift or whatever every single week. Just know what relieves your stress and take that time to do it, and also make use of your downtime effectively. And because it is an accelerated program, time will go by so fast, and it'll be hard for you to catch up if you fall behind. So make sure you take the downtime. Like, for example, whenever I had breaks at work, I use that time to just take a walk, because health was a big priority for me. So I always made sure to take a walk during my an hour break. And I also used to listen to podcasts or whatever, or if I didn't feel like doing it, then I would do flashcards while walking. Like, make use of your downtime, either for relaxation or to catch up on something that you haven't done. Some things that reduced my stress was journaling. When I felt too overwhelmed, I just did a thought dump on a piece of paper, just wrote all of my feelings about how I'm feeling about everything. Don't care about the language I'm using, don't care about any typos, errors, doesn't matter, just thought dump. Or you can go work out at the gym, you can go swimming, you can make some food, learn how to cook, just do something that isn't too time consuming, but it's still relaxing to you. Now that I gave all the information that you need to know to make a decision, I'm just going to give you some tips based on my recommendations of what I would have done if I went back to year one, or if I were to redo this program. So tip number 1 is, if you can wait until semester 2 to start working, then I would recommend waiting till then. this was just my personal preference. I felt like because I started working like right away, like since week one, it was very hard for me to incorporate a bunch of things. Like I had to think about my work schedule, the logistics around that. I had to talk to my employer about it, and I also had to balance all of the school stuff, like the labs, different activities, making friends, and just understanding the whole layout of the program, and also placement. So that was hard for me to do initially. So I would have just wanted to have waited until semester 2 of year 1, so then I would have had a better way to handle everything rather than just stressing myself out from day 1. But if you're in a position where you cannot wait to start working from semester 2, then you can by all means start working from week 1 or even the first month of school. But I would just recommend just taking some time for yourself every single day to do activities that make you feel recharged, whether it be journaling, meditating, going on walks, whatever it is. Take care of your mental and physical health. Just spend 20 to 30 minutes for yourself every single day. Tip number 2 is I would recommend communicating your needs to your employer very early on. Like, just tell them during the interview process that you are in an accelerated program and the time commitment is kind of a lot. So you just need to let them know what your needs are. If you can work 1 shift a week, 2 shifts a week, that's up to you. You should just let them know beforehand so they know what to expect, and it doesn't stress you out when you need to call in, when you need to swap shifts, when you need to give away shifts because you just can't fit it into your schedule. Tip number 3 is take a more balanced approach with work and school life rather than just going ham at one thing. Like, that's something I did. I worked every single shift on reading week that I picked up. I worked every single weekend. I worked every holiday. Like, every day off that I've had, I just worked. I did nothing else. No friends, no going out, no partying, nothing. But that obviously depends on your financial situation. Like, if you're in a position where you can't afford to take days off or whatever, weeks off, then obviously just take some time for yourself every single day. But if you are in a position where you can take a more balanced approach, then I would 100% recommend that. So that's what I did in year 2. I took a more work school balanced approach compared to year 1. Year 1, all I did was every single holiday or time off that I had from school, I worked. I would sometimes even be done school early. Like, let's say my class ended at 1, I would take a shift the same day, like 3:30. So it was just the best. I would recommend not doing that. I would take a more balanced approach, which is what I did in year 2. I prioritized social connections, mental health, physical health, and just being in the present. I focused on what I was doing rather than just doing one thing constantly, which was working. And I already told you how that went. Year 1, my academic performance wasn't the best. My social connections weren't greatest. Nothing was working out. But year 2, everything was going very smoothly. Everything was working out as it should. I already said this before, so I'm just going to briefly mention it here. If you can apply to clinical externship, I would recommend applying as a clinical externship because it just offers the most flexibility and it's the best case scenario for a nursing student in this program. Another recommendation, if you don't want to work as a clinical extern for whatever reason, I would recommend applying to work study positions. The applications open in February of year 1. That one's also super flexible. The employers know that you are a full-time student and it's meant for students and it's through UofT's faculty. You can apply to the nursing specific work study positions or just any UofT ones in general. The time commitment is very less. Like, I did that in year 2 and the max I worked a week was 8 hours. And the last tip that I have for you, if you want to work, go ahead. If you want to work from week 1, go ahead by all means, but make sure you watch your energy levels. Like, you need to take a step back when you're feeling like you're super tired and you can't give it your all and you're handling too many things. You need to take a step back from some of the commitments. Whereas if you're fully energetic and you're handling everything really well from this beginning till the end, then yeah, what you're doing is working for you, go ahead. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you are dealing with patients. It's very important for you to be fully present and attentive when you're in your clinical placements, because that's the best way to learn. And you also need the energy to participate in things, and you also need to be fully present for you to learn anything from your placements. And even though you have your preceptor and clinical instructors during your placements to help you out with whatever you need, it's also important for you to do the assessments properly and take as many opportunities as you can when you are learning. And if you're starting to feel like you're burning out and you can't handle all of the things that you committed to, then obviously consider dropping some of them. Reach out, talk to your friends, your family, reach out to the faculty. They're there to help you, explain them your situation. There are a few of them that are very understanding in the faculty, or use the mental health services that UofT has to offer if you need it. And that's a wrap on this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thanks for those that reached out and recommended me to make this video because you weren't sure if you wanted to work during school or not, and I hope it gave you the answers that you needed to make your decision easier. And I know I've been MIA for a while, and year 2 has honestly been really busy. As balanced as it was, there was still a lot going on, and I hope to make a video about how year 2 is different from year 1 in a few weeks. Thank you. Bye.